Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NIL Edge, the show where the people shaping the future of NIL pull back the curtain and show us what they're doing and how they're doing it. Whether you're an athletic director, working in an athletic department, or maybe you're a brand trying to navigate athlete partnerships, this is the space for you. Each episode, we are going to spotlight real-world strategies and challenges from voices across all of collegiate sports, including general managers, NIL directors, brands, and innovators pushing the NIL conversation forward. Our goal is to share success stories, create a trusted spot for people to talk NIL strategy, education, and alignment, and hopefully we can have some thoughts pop into your head and you can think, man, I should be doing that. The show is produced as a partnership with NIL Newsstand and Digital Sport by Hot Paper Lantern. I'm your host, Sterling Randall. I come from the world of strategic communications and public relations. And before that, I worked as an SID and have seen firsthand how critical communications, compliance, and brand building are vital to an athletic department's success. Now I work with brands and organizations at the intersection of NIL and strategy, helping them promote their brands through strategic communications, fundraising, and building in lasting and meaningful communications. Our first guest this week is Ben Chase from the University of Florida. Let's get into it. Welcome, everybody. Today's guest is none other than Ben Chase, who is the NIL director at the University of Florida. Ben is one of the most innovative voices in all of college athletics, known for helping pioneer NIL strategy at the University of Florida while leveraging his grassroots experience in cross-campus influence to set a national example for how athletic departments can scale NIL to support all sports across the entire athletic department. Ben, how the heck are you?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me on. We just had our first home event last night, soccer, a big 4-2 win. And we had a true freshman have 2 goals and 2 assists. So I'm putting y'all on notice about Katie Johnston from Oklahoma, true freshman, just unbelievable. But it's just exciting to be back. 2025 season, all of our sports. We got volleyball today, playing Stanford, not at home, but on the road. So it's just, and then we're going to blink. It'll be football next week. So the juices are flowing. The students are back. Yesterday was the first day of class. My girlfriend's a professor, so she's fired up to be back teaching here at Florida. So the vibes are high right now.
The first couple weeks are always great because
you're undefeated.
You're undefeated. Football hasn't started yet, so you have women's soccer and volleyball are usually going. Those are kind of your first introductions to sporting events and the atmosphere on campus. So it's really fun to get those ones going.
Yeah, and there was a 2-hour lightning delay last night. So I didn't get home till midnight. But we got the dub, which is what matters. And this team is young and feisty, very fun offense. So yeah, I agree. It's the students are back. We just did that class of 2029 photo on the field, which is crazy to say. 2029, holy smokes. But yeah, it's here.
That's awesome. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into your role, and what exactly it is that you do at the University of Florida.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm from Orlando. I didn't go to college until I was 21. I worked at Walt Disney World and was like, all right, well, this is not for me. I'm someone that usually sees like the long term of where I'm at, and if it doesn't really work, then I pivot. So went to Valencia Community College. Now it's Valencia College in spring, summer, fall, spring. Then came to Florida. The only place I applied as a transfer because I just wanted to be here, #1 public school in Florida, and a top 5 school in the country. And growing up, basketball was my favorite sport, and college football was my favorite tradition. So it just made sense to come to UF. Did business economics, then went to law school at GW, and then full circle back to Orlando as an attorney, and then got into NIL space from a Twitter DM. And then we blink, and it's August 22nd today to timestamp this for the evergreen content. And, I've been here since January 23, so 2.5 years. And it's funny, this will be my third football season here as an admin, and I only had 2 as a student. So it's kind of cool that I've now passed over. I feel like I've officially been a Gator for 4 years now.
Tell us a little bit about your day-to-day. Obviously, it varies in season, out of season, what seasons are going. But tell us a little bit about your day-to-day right now, since all the sports haven't started, and then maybe tell us what your day-to-day looks like in a month or in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, I have my calendar here on the side, and like today, I going over to football to talk about NIL Go updates with their staff, and then I'm going to surprise our women's and men's golf team that we're going to be one of the new schools that has Chipotle for every athlete. So that's a cool thing. That's happening. Breaking news here for you. Then going to women's basketball to do some NIL stuff, and also doing a recruiting visit for soccer, which is timely because we just hosted them last night for a win. So that's just today on a Friday. Every Saturday during the fall, I also do recruiting for some of our sports, mornings of lacrosse, soccer, women's basketball, depending on the day. And then the rest of this week, I've done some NIL activations for multiple sports. Actually, I just realized today we also have 2 more activations with defensive linemen tonight at 6:00. So that's one Friday. And I will say that a lot of our sponsors are squeezing in activations now before school year starts. So the last 2.5 to 3 weeks, it's been back to back to back. Chipotle one day, Jordan Brand, Beats. I don't know if you guys saw, we just did the Beats headphones deal with DJ Lagway where he gifted the entire team. So, it's a lot. And then I host, or I help with a 40-person NIL delegate group monthly Zoom call. We just had it this Wednesday. That's every third Wednesday of the month. And then we had orientation this week too. So onboarding, welcoming new athletes. And since I'm a Gator myself, like I kind of try to pull that veil on what it is to be a Gator, what that means, and kind of speak to the athletes a little bit better on that. Like, and say, hey, like, in the world of transferring, like, it's okay to transfer. I transferred from a community college. I've been to 3 schools, technically, Valencia, Florida, and GW. But it's, where do you want to call home in 20, 40, 60 years? And if we can make that Florida and Gainesville, like that means that we did our job.
It's really interesting that you get to work at where you went to school. That's not something that's super common, right? Especially in your space, specifically NIL, and then specifically in athletics, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of different for you, but what are some of the lessons that you've learned since you started that maybe would be different for someone who didn't go to school at the University of Florida?
Yeah, that's a good question. For someone in my role or a student or?
Yeah, for you both.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when I interviewed, one of the people I interviewed with said, working for your alma mater, you're going to lose love for your alma mater in some ways. And I wouldn't say that's 100% true. I actually found love in other areas. Like when I was a student here, I only went to 1 soccer game, and I've been to probably, this is my 3rd season with soccer, right? So like, and gymnastics, I loved it. If I went to gymnastics my 2 seasons, I would have witnessed national championships, which is crazy to say. Like, and we're right there. Gymnastics is a 4 on the floor team every year I've been here. So like we're knocking on the door again. And I'd say that that's like probably the most underrated part of coming back to your alma mater. And just falling in love with sports that you didn't really appreciate when you're here as a student. Also, as a transfer, I didn't go to college until I was 21. So like I was already kind of older. And I didn't really know anyone on the teams. I had a guy who was in one of my business classes that was on the football team, but he was a walk-on. He didn't really play. So having an emotional attachment to the players, I don't have any siblings, so I consider them my little brothers, little sisters, and I try to mentor them and find them internships if I can't find them NIL deals, right? So I'd say like in this role, if you're at a different school, that's like when I worked before this, I worked for Blueprint Sports, and they're crushing it. I kind of felt the same type of way. I lived in Tucson for a little bit, and like the Wildcats kind of became my second home. Arizona, Bear Down. I was a big Jed Fish guy when I was there, and now he's up in Washington. I won't do any predictions, but I think they're going to have a good year. But yeah, I would say that if you just like be open to learning about your athletes, and they'll surprise you. I mean, we have a gymnast that's sold over 10,000 hair bows, 1,000 leotards. She is a landlord now. She's bought 2 houses in Gainesville. And it's challenged me. Last year in 2024, I lost 35 pounds, just because I was like, if these normal 18 to 24-year-olds can get in good shape and also go to class and all this stuff, like why can't I? Like when I was in college, I put athletes on a pedestal, and I'm 6'1", 201 pounds this morning, but like I see some of our walk-ons in sports. I'm like, they're just as big as me. I may not be as fast as them right now, but like they just put in the work, and I think that wherever you are and whatever your profession is, like it's not about they say comparison is a thief of joy. Like if you put in the work, you're going to be at the top of your field or in the top of your sport. And I ring true on that for sure.
Florida's an interesting athletic department because not only do they offer a lot of sports that other universities might not offer, like gymnastics and women's lacrosse.
Yeah.
But then the support staff is very large as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, our football photo goes viral every season with everyone. It's like we have more people on support staff than athletes.
That's hilarious. With such a large student athlete population, how do you prioritize NIL efforts across the entire athletic department? And how do you, I know when we spoke the other day, you talked about meeting with every team and maximizing their potential. How do you do that? Is that a sit down with the coach? Is that a sit down with the student athletes? Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. So, we have 21 sports, 15 head coaches, and they're the CEOs of their programs. So I get in where I fit in, and I'd say that when I was hired, I didn't interview with every head coach, right? I interviewed with admin, I interviewed with football, I interviewed with some other people. And then, they hire you, and then they say, hey, like, go, I meet with the coaches, and, it's hard to gain rapport overnight, right? So, like, it takes time and it takes momentum to get coaches to trust you or let them do these things. And then, there's also coaches turnover as well. But like you said, we have, women's gymnastics here is incredible, and then lacrosse as well. And I mean, we're one of only 2 schools in the SEC with women's lacrosse. It's us and Vanderbilt, and we play in the Pac-12, so it's very rare. We've played in 4 different conferences and have won all 4 conferences. So last year was our first year in the Pac-12, and we won it in the first year. So that's kind of fun. And it's like us and Colorado and San Diego State, very random. But it's cool because like when we recruit, we can say, hey, like you're going to go to San Diego every other year. And then from a support staff standpoint, it's funny. Yesterday, our 2025 Learfield, we're a Learfield school, which sells our sponsorships. They dropped the football program, the one that's free. And in one of the pages is Gator Boosters is what we call our fundraising arm. They have this graphic that shows the average cost of an athlete at Florida, like how much per year. And I want to pull up, let's see. I want to pull up our tuition costs before I tell you this number. And then let me pull up the tuition costs. I'll let you guess the number, and then I'll tell it to you. University of Florida tuition.
This is the stuff I'm terrible at.
All right.
I was
if you had to guess the average cost of what it costs to be an athlete at Florida, like what we pay per athlete, basically, what would you think it is?
Ooh, so that includes like food, room and board, tuition. Is this per semester or for a year?
For a year.
Holy.
Annual cost, average.
this is going to be a horrible guess. I'm going to say $155,000.
That's a good guess. So last year, before RevGen, I think the number was right at 88,000.
Okay.
And now it's 119,000.
Oh, wow.
And for perspective, in-state tuition is $6,400
Oh, wow.
per semester. So, and scholarships and everything, it averages out to $43,000. And then there's another almost $80,000 in travel, sports medicine, health, food, equipment, academic support, and obviously now rev share. So $120,000 per ath. That's great. I mean, that's a true investment in athletics here. And you got to think, like, obviously not every sport and every athlete is getting rev gen, but the averaging that out, because that's the new vertical of athletics and the new cost center, is it cost center? I don't know. The new, whatever it is, not expense, but we got to move that money around. And that's really intriguing. And we're, an in-state public school with really, really cheap tuition. So imagine that 155 number, that's probably Stanford. That's probably, at least, right? Like that's even Georgetown. Who knows, like, what these smaller schools in the big cities can cost. But that just goes to show you that, there is, that threshold of, if you come to Florida, you're getting true full service turnkey investment in you. And that's why in the SEC, and I'll pound the for the shield a little bit, is like baseball players are going to the SEC and not to the MLB. Like they'll get drafted and they'll be like, well, I can be like, like Mike, and, Mike rides the bus, or I can go charter, right? And have all my meals paid for. And now, luckily, in the MLB, they have housing for the minor leagues. They didn't have that, 5 years ago. But it's just a better experience, better gym, better treatment. And, if you look at Florida and as a baseball school, we've had 2 or 3, top 10 draft picks the last few years, Jack Tawney and Wyatt Langford. And that goes to show you that system and the dollars behind it are working.
I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about the Chipotle deal that you guys just recently signed. You walk us through how that came about. Is that you guys? Is it you guys going to them? Is it you knocking on their door and saying, "Hey, Florida men's basketball, we just won a national champion"? Was this spawned because the Chipotle social media manager was getting spammed from Florida athletes being like, "Oh my gosh, guys"?
So I got to tap and give a head nod to Logan Hiddle and Ohio State, because they were the first school to get the deal last year through their Learfield deal. And then, it went well for them. So I'm grateful for the Buckeyes, which I hate to say, but because they did well, Chipotle decided to scale it out to 2 more schools, Florida and Georgia. So there'll be a cool like video of Florida versus Georgia, like that's clipped, probably closer to our rivalry game. But I would say, that also goes to show you that this logo, this brand means something nationally. And that's something that we say. I mean, we have over 500,000 living alumni, and that number just went up because we just had graduations, and hopefully not that many people has died in the last 3 months. But like, the Gators, when we are a terrible team in sports, we're still a top 5 fanatic school. Like that shows you that the logo holds weight. And we're in a state with some historically good schools too. I mean, Florida State, even though they're a rival, I respect the brand. Miami. And then if you sneeze and take a wrong turn, you end up in Auburn or Georgia, right? Like, so it's like we're in this hotbed of legacy brands, but the logo, this Gator head, you can take it in. I was literally in Angel's Landing on the hiking and met Gator fans, and we took a selfie. Like that's incredible. And that's something that, so I would say, going back to your question, like the Chipotle deal, it was inevitable that was going to come to Florida. I would say that, when that deal was launched at Ohio State, I went to our Learfield team and said, my phone just exploded because all of our athletes want this deal. So I don't know what that means, but if you could figure it out, that'd be helpful. And I'd say for the amount of investment we have in the Learfield team, our team does a good job of creating opportunities for our athletes. And every sponsor now does have like an NIL spend, which is exciting to see. I'm hoping that, over the last few days, we've seen a lot of press releases for field logos. Hopefully the Gators will have one here soon. There's a lot of brands that have big anniversaries coming up that I think would align with our brand as well, that are already sponsors.
When it comes to deals like this, now you just mentioned Learfield, how often are you the one that is approaching brands and saying, hey, we'd love to work with you? Are they bringing it? What's kind of the breakdown of deals?
So it's one of those things where it's kind of like a 60-40, 70-20, or 30. Depends on the day. What I tell our athletes is, hey, if there's a company you want to work with, tell me, and I'll get the wheels flowing, or I'll go on LinkedIn and find their marketing team. So right now, the trendy water bottles, the Owalas, a few of our athletes want to deal with them. And then there's two new fitness places in Gainesville. One is called Fit AF, but it's fit as fire. And like some of our student athletes want to get a deal with them. So at Florida, we have a really prominent yoga studio called Yoga Pod. It's only here and in Boulder, and our athletes get free yoga as long as they just post on their story when they go. And we've broken that to, there's another company called D1 Training, which is kind of scaling, and they just opened a studio, same kind of deal. So they're like, there's a new fitness place in town. And it's funny because like we have incredible training, they're getting their butts whooped here, but they just want more, right? Pilates is super hot right now. So, but going back to what your question is, like, yeah, it's Learfield. We don't have a Learfield NIL GM. A lot of schools do. That's like solely focused on that kind of sales approach. I kind of have to play that role right now as like a stopgap and kind of liaison to the athletes, and that's okay. But I think at some point we'll probably build that out. And I don't have any interns right now. I don't have any interns. I have volunteers. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of give them the keys on more of that sales side. I just don't have the capacity to be emailing 50 companies a day or calling them.
Now that brings up a really excellent question. Obviously, with you just mentioned, not having a giant staff yourself. What are some of the hurdles that you run into in the NIL space? Direct, like related to working with inside such a large athletic department.
Yeah, I would say, we are a government entity. We're a nonprofit, and the university itself is under this huge board of governors. And I think it's hard right now at UF specifically because we have so much, we don't have a president. And because of all that, all of the big opportunities that athletics has, we're our own entity outside of the university, but we still have this relationship where like the president is the one that makes the final call on big things. And like our interim is a great guy education wise, but he doesn't want to leave the bag, if you will, for the next guy. So like, there's potential for a new golf course, and then maybe the current golf course, like half of that land is sold and is, we build on that because it's valuable. So there's a lot of those big things that haven't moved. And then going back to your question, like at a big university like this and with so many athletes, it's hard to it takes a little bit to turn that ship. And perfect example was we just announced this new partnership between our collective, which Florida Victorious, our collective is not going anywhere, unlike some schools, and then our journalism school. So the journalism school, they already have it's called the agency. It's a marketing lab, and they're building out basically the sports version of it. And they have a partnership with our collective where the students will get credit for help build the brands and do marketing and activations for the athletes. So it's like a win-win. And it's also one of the first times, there's some other schools out there. I think Oklahoma State has a good one, a good program when it comes to this kind of brand center. Clemson has the CAB, Clemson athlete branding. But we're one of the first ones that have this kind of true for credit partnership between the collective and the university, which is kind of cool with the college. And it could really move the needle on adding value and followers, which will help fair market value. But it took us 18 months to do that. And when I say that, like we had should it be a part of athletics? Should it be a part of whatever? Should it be like, there's so many, hiding the shell kind of things. And then we found the best way to do it was collective journalism school, and then athletics supports it. And that's kind of like where we're at with it now. But, and then little things like, with the Rev Gen era here, now it's, we have a football GM, we have a basketball kind of GM. And, it's also one of those things that's like, how do we measure success in their roles and my role? Now that, I'm not really a GM, I help some of our coaches with some stuff. But how do you even measure my role? And when I'm asking for, hey, like, can we use this new SaaS platform? I really think it'll move the needle. It costs $10,000 a year. Well, my budget is, not $10,000 or whatever it is. Like that's the hard part, is like trying to stretch this out.
Okay, so let's say I'm a brand. Could be a local brand, like some of the fitness studios that are local that you just mentioned, or I'm a national brand, like, a national brand like Chipotle. I have not started working in the NIL space yet, right? What advice would you give to brands that want to engage with student athletes, but don't know how to approach a department, or like how to approach you or the athletic department?
Yeah, I would say, like, have they done influencer marketing at all? That's the first question, because NIL is just influencer marketing for athletes. However, influencers are used to a campaign. They're used to having deliverables. Not all athletes are. So does that athlete with 100,000 followers have 100,000 followers because they're also a creator, or it's because they create wide open 3-pointers and all of our fans love them, right? So like that's phase one, is like, kind of, has the company or brand had a campaign with influencer marketing, and two, do the athletes they're targeting even know about influence marketing? And then from there, it's like, what are your goals? How do you measure your ROIs, your KPIs? Like, that you are a business, right? And you're deciding to spend marketing dollars on athletes. And then it's like, the perfect example is Wawa. Wawa is a Northeastern company that has a lot of marketing spend. And Florida has Wawas, like Gainesville, Orlando. I think Orlando may have been the first Wawa in Florida, and they've kind of scaled out from there. But we have them in Gainesville now. And but like, if Wawa came to me and said, hey, like, I'd like to do a deal with, an athlete or whatever, I would say, hey, you could say they have a $20,000 budget. All right, you can get one football player for $20,000, or you can probably get an entire team for that. And they'll be like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, also, this team is all from the Northeast. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? Like, so I would say, hey, like, maybe you could consider the lacrosse team, because, they're all from your mainland, and they also have a Florida connection. So it's a win-win there. And all of their followers are probably from the Northeast. So you get that. And then you also get the halo effect with our fans, which are national. And that would just be a good way to do it. And also, you could probably sign the whole team for $20,000. Like, you could probably get, there's probably at this point 38, maybe 40 athletes on the lacrosse team. If I'm doing the math, $500 a piece, that's a really good deal for lacrosse. That's a huge deal. They would love that. And that would, and then you build out a marketing strategy and a press release strategy, and that's even free earned media for them. So that's kind of where I'd start with them, is try to give them more value on the front end, so that, one, they feel confident, two, they invest in the right athletes, and three, they are excited to come back for a second spend.
You kind of answered it. I think you kind of answered it with the second part of your question there, by maybe going to not a non-traditional sport, but maybe a sport that people necessarily don't think of. But what is one thing you wish brands like understood more when they are trying to work with athletic departments and student athletes? Is it, hey, you can get just as much ROI going to a non-football, like going for a team, as you could just going for one football player?
Yeah, I would say that it all starts with who your point person is. I'm the point guard at Florida, or quarterback. I like to say point guard because I grew up playing basketball. And my goal is to get them to a yes, and two, make sure that, again, that it's the right, genuine, we're not going to have a football player going out and doing like a, get ready with me video. Like, that's just not what they're going to do. And maybe they will, but it just won't be as organic or as unique. And if the brand is unfamiliar with, influence marketing at all, I think it starts with that again. And then kind of, going off, a lot of companies will come and say, here are the 10 athletes we have. The perfect example is we had a company 2 weeks ago send me 8 athletes. And I said, well, one of them is not at here anymore. They transferred. And then the other 4 others are international athletes. And that's a whole nother can of worms. So they can't do anything in the States. You can work with them, but you're going to have to be on their timeline. So I can talk to those 3 athletes, and then the other 5 we got to reconnect on. And I think that's part of it too, is, there's not that awareness of like international athletes can't do work in the country. And some of our international athletes, especially at Florida, have massive followings. We have the world's tallest team who has 145,000 followers on Instagram. He's 7'9". And that's lightning rod for content, right? But you got to be strategic and be open to working around his ability to go back to Canada or the Bahamas or whatever to really do those campaigns.
In your time at Florida, what's the one thing that you are most proud of that you have done?
I would say that, going back to the international piece, when I got here, international NIL was like a no. Like, it was just an immediate no. So when I first got here, I went to our international center and I was like, all right, let's work this out. I worked with our outside counsel from a prominent, international law firm. I'm an attorney too, so I was able to kind of talk that language and get it to a yes. And now, like, I would say, if you look at our men's basketball team, there's a lot of international athletes on that team, and we're able to do it the right way and help them on their taxes and stuff. So, it's not really reported on and flagged about, but like, our coaches say, hey, like, if we weren't able to move this forward, we wouldn't be able to compete. So I would say that's probably one of them. And then 2, like, just, there was a study, I don't know who ran it, but it said, in I think it was 2024 last summer, the Florida Gators had the most NIL deals, which is an interesting study because I don't really know where they pulled the data from, and the numbers were a little wrong. But 1, I'll take the PR, and 2, we don't have the most athletes. Ohio State has twice as many athletes. Michigan has twice as many athletes. But somehow, some algorithmic data, we were the ones that were polling at the highest level and had the most deals. So, like, that's not all me. We have great athletes here that have good stories to tell. I think those 2 are probably at the top. And then, there's some deals that are just fun and are different. So I think just those are at the top of my head, but those are probably what I'm most proud of right now.
No, those are huge accomplishments. I'm glad you brought it up because I meant to ask you about it earlier, and it went out my brain. What advantage, or do you think having a law background kind of gives you an advantage in your specific position?
I think it gives me more, I don't really use it a lot per se. I like to review contracts and stuff, but it just gives me authority in every room at a different level. When I go into a room with parents, I'm not just a random guy. I'm a Gator who's a graduate of, Florida. I'm a graduate of Florida, went to law school, and I'm still an attorney, and now I'm in this space. So I can speak with confidence to them. When I go in meetings with businesses and donors and alumni, like, I'm not some scrub. A lot of our athletes think I'm 27, 28. I am not that. I'm way older than that. But like that, it goes to show you. And then at the same time, a lot of alumni think I'm also very young. So being able to go into a room with coaches and just having that kind of authority is a helpful spot. And then just, having the discipline and patience that law school basically pounds in your head to, in this space, NIL is supposed to be fun and fast, but sometimes it's better to sit back and make sure you're compliant as well.
I like that. I really like that. Okay, before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple of quick rapid fire question. What's one tool, software, resource, whatever, that you absolutely could not live without in your day-to-day?
I mean, honestly, like it's calendar. Like if like I'm serious. Like I if it's not on my calendar, I'm not going to be there. And I am more than happy to send the calendar invite. But if like I actually I prefer it because like I don't I do like 40-minute blocks, not 45, not an hour. So that kind of gives me a little control of that. And I'm also like I asked them like send, and I also don't like Calendly, like or what all those other things. I don't think it's personal. Like use my Calendly. I understand the efficiencies of it, and at some point I may change the tune on that. I what is available for you, and I'll send the calendar invite. Like that's so. And so right now, I mean, I'm looking at today this week. I probably have 30 meetings minimum right now, and that doesn't include recruiting and stuff. So I would say it's such a simple thing, but that's the things that people overlook. I think the most underrated app of all time is Google Maps, and I think calendars, invites, and like my girlfriend, she just sent me calendar invites for the end of February, and she's like, "This is for your Christmas gift," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll accept." And I don't even know what my Christmas gift is, but like she knows like that if it's not on my calendar, I'm out.
I love it. Is there one calendar that you're specific to? Is it the Outlook calendars?
I'm an Outlook calendar guy. I don't know if it's the best or the worst, but because it's my work calendar, that's kind of what I have locked in. Yeah.
Okay. Shout out Outlook. What is your, and I think I already know what you're going to answer with this question because we talked about it previously. What's your favorite memory related to college sports?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of a big deal, but it's aging out more now. But, in 2022, basically 3 years ago, I went to the most college football games in one season at that time. Went to 77 games all on the road. I drove around in a 2017 Dodge Grand Caravan named Betty White. And I went to all 48 continental U.S. states, 77 games in 135 days. And I would say like getting through week 1, 5 games in 5 days in 5 different states, like that's when I knew like, holy crap, I could probably do this. But I only thought I was going to go to like 60 games, and I ended up going to 77. And I have memories and connections and stories for days. I went to 3 weddings. They just all happened to be on Sundays. That was kind of crazy too. Because if they were on Saturdays, I would have lost a lot of games. So it just worked out perfectly. Mind you, I did blow a transmission and rented a car for like 6 days and put 8,000 miles on that car. So they probably sold it when I returned it. But yeah, and just there's so many cool. I mean, the worst part was Georgia won another championship, but outside of that, it was a super awesome time.
I'd encourage everyone to look it up. He probably went to your alma mater, and he probably had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I had three rules. If I bought a shirt and hat from every game except for like 6 teams, rivals. I stayed to the end of every game, and if someone offered me a drink, I had to take it. Didn't mean I finished it, but I did take it.
All right. What's your can't miss spot in Gainesville? When somebody comes in from out of town, what's your like, oh, you gotta go here?
Yeah, I mean the layup here is Spurrier's, but I'm gonna go somewhere else. There's a place called Fehrenbacher's. It's a small like deli, and my girlfriend and I love it. Great food. They have a $20 charcuterie board, but we get an extra sausage, so it's $26. It's like a nice little backdoor area. You can get a drink next door. And we were there early. It's so popular. It was on diners, drive-ins, and dives, so it's like a legit spot.
It's good.
So I would say that. Second, there's a place called The Top, which is also like downtown and kind of like high-end food. But if you're a tourist and you're like a Gator, you go to Spurrier's, and that's like where you go. But if you want to go somewhere that's not off the beaten path, but like where Gainesville people go, I'd say those are probably 2 at the top.
I love it. I'm adding them to my list. And then lastly, tell us where people can find you. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Where's the best spot to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, all my socials and even my email, it's all the same. Ben G Chase, Ben Gator Chase, if you want to do that. like at LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. You didn't even ask me what my favorite NIL deal was, though.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We can rewind there. Tell me about your favorite NIL deal that you've been a part of, or just that you've seen in the marketplace.
Yeah. So when we're talking about like most proud of. Like this is kind of the one I was thinking of, but so I had a film studio reach out to me, and I was like, they were like, hey, like we're doing something in Jacksonville, and we'd love to have some athletes in it. I was like, this is intriguing. And they go, yeah, we want to put gymnasts or divers in one of those zero gravity, the ships, the planes. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And I was like, I got to make sure this is okay with compliance and trainers and everything. So, and coaches. So I like got all the things cleared, and we had, I think it was 3 athletes, got to go, and they got paid. The cost for a regular person to do this is $10,000.
Oh my gosh.
And they got to go out to Jacksonville, and it was like a 757 or something, and they got to go fly and like do the zero gravity thing, and they like were like doing flips and stuff, and it was part of this like Albert Einstein's Incredible World IMAX movie that they're going to be showing like in science centers and in schools all over the country. And we got to send 3 of our athletes to be, or 2 or 3 of our athletes to be a part of it. They got paid for it, and they got, I mean that's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's different than what you see like the regular, these kind of, the Beats stuff that happens every year now. Beats is going to be doing that forever, and they did it last season. But like being able to tell, and like those athletes are like, I can't believe I got to do that. Like that's what I'm going to tell my kids. That's what, and they're like, they don't have kids obviously, but and like getting to see that final product of the content of, and it was funny because they're used to doing flips, but they're not used to doing flips in space, basically. So I think that's probably the coolest thing I got to see and be part. I was jealous. It was the first real NIL deal that I was like jealous of, and that means it's a good deal.
We got to make sure you still got maybe you've got some eligibility left somewhere that we don't know about.
Yeah, I'll have to see. Maybe I can slide in and be an extra +1 the next time they film.
I love it. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today, and go Gators.
Thanks, go Gators. Appreciate you.
We'd like to thank our guest, Ben Chase, for joining us and sharing all of his insights with us. That wraps up today's episode of NIL Edge. If you would like to talk to us more, you can find me, Sterling Randall, on LinkedIn. You can check out hpldigitalsport.com or check out nilnewsstand.com. You can also find Digital Sport by Hot Paper Lantern on LinkedIn, and you can find NIL Newsstand on LinkedIn. Have a fantastic day, everyone, and we will talk to you later.